Michael, nice to meet you, Michael. Hi, Megan. That's Laura. That's Jennifer. Maybe just commence by saying that we're very happy we could all be here together today, and that Mr. Dundee is particularly flattered and pleased that you considered him again for the next stage in the Island Over project that he's already played some part in. We understand the breeding load agreements. In particular, he wanted us to state from the outset that he does think the tissue and cloning approach that you're wanting to take towards this biological preserve is an excellent way of preserving species. And to that end, he's very interested in participating on the face of it. I suppose to that end, we only have received limited information thus far as to exactly what the project involves and what Mr. Dundee's role involves. So we're particularly interested to hear from you on that point to start with.
Sure, that's great. And I'd like to say also that our client is equally as excited about this meeting and continuing the relationship with Mr. Dundee and seeing if we can work out a positive agreement. I just wanted to do a bit of housekeeping first before we got started. I know that in the common memos that the book received about the meeting, that it was stated that this meeting would be confidential. And I just wanted to confirm that with you, that everything that we discussed in this meeting will be confidential. Also, just because of the international nature of the work we've been doing for our client, both Stephen and I have been dealing with different currencies, pounds, dollars, euros, and so forth. So if either one of us said anything about euros any time, please assume that we're speaking in euros because we often get confused moving around so much.
I imagine we'll have the same problems.
I think perhaps the best starting point is understanding and see if anything's changed. What sort of we're here to discuss. Obviously, we want to move forward with this cloning project. To our client, working with Mr. Dundee is very important. They obviously love the work he did in the past. He's a well-regarded animal expert. We need him to do our work. With the right terms, we want to move forward with this. Some of that we're going to be discussing today is that which we're going to pay into the terms on which we do that. And of course, the confidentiality in the work that he'll be doing. And perhaps the best place to start might be the confidentiality. An understanding that essentially we're hiring him sort of in an anonymous way. We're going to pay him through the work. We don't want to know how he's gathering any of the samples. All we care about is that it's legal and that we're real. We want complete control at all times, and I'm sure that you can understand why this is the case. And it's a benefit to both of us, but we need complete control of all publicity and everything like that, so that there's really, it's done in an anonymous nature.
That would suit our client quite perfectly. The nature of his business is such that confidentiality is certainly a great benefit, and to lose that would mean prices in terms of obtaining samples go up, sources get revealed, sources aren't happy. So he'd be more than happy to work with you keeping this agreement confidential. Insofar as the publicity is concerned, of course, Mr. Dundee would be happy for you to take that on if it is an important issue for your clients. But he is, as you know, quite well regarded and does actually get a lot of his work from his public image. So to that end, if we are going to let you to take that, that would need to, I feel, be factored into remuneration package, perhaps in some capacity. Of course, everything being contingent upon everything else. That's just something we need to perhaps bear in mind, that it's a sacrifice we're prepared to make, but not one that we necessarily would like to without any recompense.
Give us, you had mentioned something that he's losing on this, and you want a remuneration package. Could you go into detail about it?
It's not so much an issue of losing, just that in terms of some of the work he does obtain is actually through building upon his public image. As you know, he's so well renowned, so it need not even be financial, but it's just that if this is something that you would like to take on, we'd just like to have that, kept in mind that this is something that Mr. Dundee's done to maintain the good faith between the parties, and is happy to let you to do this at this time. But perhaps as we move forward with the entirety of the project, perhaps using his skills as an expedition guide or drawing upon some of his contacts, then he may be of some assistance to your client at some time in the future.
So I just want to clarify, with regards to publicity, would you be suggesting that Mr. Dundee would be happier if his name was never mentioned in relation to the project whatsoever?
If that's the mutual understanding between the parties, and it would certainly suit our client, it's perhaps wise to put a clause in the agreement to that effect, that we keep complete confidentiality of this entire acquisition process, and also that Mr. Dundee is obtaining the sources, no mention of where they're coming from, and if it suits your clients, of course, no mention that they're
it's definitely what we prefer, but again, I'm just trying to listen to what you guys have said, and one of the things you said, you know, you're obviously well-regarded animal expert. Publicity is important to them. Could we address, I know down the road, at this time, it's very important that we do know, that we keep complete control of the cloning and all that, and that's agreed upon. But in the way of publicity I mean, there's always, with ecotourism, at some point, we're going to need to go out in public, and certainly not talk about how we obtained anything.
Yes.
But the bottom line is we're going to want to show, it's a biological attraction so astounding that it's going to capture the imagination of the entire world. We have to show the world that. In order to address publicity, would that be something he'd want to be involved in? Is that what you meant in the way of?
Yeah, it's more that he would certainly, we think, like to continue his involvement. I mean, he's kind of seen this thing through with you guys almost from the start with the breeding loan agreement, now moving through with the cloning project, and we'd like to have some involvement as the project goes on. So be that by way of behind-the-scenes planning, perhaps, you know, by way of meetings, just being able to share his skills that he's obtained throughout his professional career, perhaps being involved in publicity. Nothing needs to be laid on the table or finalised today. We have to see how the project, I guess, develops, but it's just an option we wanted to keep open, that because there's no publicity on this point, that there may still be some in the future.
Of course, completely separate to this entire acquisition cloning process, just more of a broader island network project. If we can hopefully continue this relationship into the future.
I think there's real strength in that as I think about it, and I hope you agree. I'm confident our client will agree. At some point, there is going to be press releases we have to make, and we can say thanks to the help done.
Perhaps even thanks to the help on the ongoing, I think it is beneficial to keep this entire cloning process confidential.
Oh, absolutely.
But in terms of a working partnership for the future, and that's certainly something we can solidify at a much later date. But just to flag, that would be definitely an interest factor.
That is perhaps one other thing we might inquire about at this stage. I mean, Mr. Dundee's expertise obviously lies in knowing the animals and being able to obtain the samples, but insofar as the actual science is concerned, we're not entirely sure what the cloning project involves. We were wondering if you had perhaps any more information on that we should be aware of?
Yeah, I mean, specifically, I'm not sure how much information you have about the animals that we're seeking to gain samples from, but essentially there are 7 animals that are priorities for our client, and they'd like to gain samples from not just one animal from the species, but from various animals of the species to have more diversity and healthier cloning and breeding process.
Was it still the 16 different samples that was flagged in our initial memo?
That's right, up to a maximum of 16 for each animal.
So what it is 7 different animal species, and amongst those 7, we're hoping to achieve a maximum of 16 different animals within that species. So for example, the tiger is one species. We'd like to obtain a maximum of 16 different samples.
So at a maximum, that's then sort of 112 or
That's right.
Okay, great.
Obviously, our biggest priority there is, our biggest priority is gaining the 7 different species.
And I suppose while we're clarifying what the project involves and what the role involves, understanding this is part of that broader context, is there a specific time frame that you'd be wanting Mr. Dundee to work towards?
We want everything complete within 1 year.
Generally, with Mr. Dundee's programs, they tend to be something that can easily sort of expand into more time if it's available. I think a year is certainly something that we can work towards. However, it will probably require Mr. Dundee to put aside the focus on some of the other projects that will be taken on in that time. So I guess that's something just in terms of remuneration we'll need to address, that he'll be mostly doing your work during this 1 year period, and so sacrificing other gains he could be making with other completely separate
Sure.
disciplines.
For sure. Like we said, we want to address your needs, and so far from what we understand, publicity is a big thing, being able to build a partnership so that in the future, Mr. Dundee looks really good.